This is Singles Exchange. Let's talk, let's hang. This is Singles Exchange. Singles Exchange.
Welcome back to Singles Exchange, a podcast that focuses on conversations, connections, and community. As always, I am your host, Joy J, and we have a very exciting episode today, another installment in our Discourse on dating. Today, we are talking about long-distance relationships, and I have some very special guests that I'll introduce in a moment. If you are a frequent exchanger, you know the drill. Be sure to like, share, and comment, and subscribe to Singles Exchange on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and whatever platform you use for podcasts. And I have on my Singles Exchange merch because it is in. So if you're interested, please inbox us. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. I would like to introduce to you guys Mrs. Murray and Mr. Murray, and I will let them introduce themselves and then we'll get started.
Oh, well, thank you, Joy. Thanks for having us today. Again, I'm Trinity Murray, and I'm so excited to be here. I have been married to Justin Murray for about 3 months now. We're excited to talk to you guys about dating long distance.
And I am Justin Murray. I've been married to Trinity Murray for about 3 months. We dated roughly 3 years before getting married. So yeah, just excited to share with you guys and, have a very good discussion.
Oh, yeah. And also, Trinity is one of our Singles Exchange staffers. Shout out to her. Justin is responsible for that amazing intro that you heard. So, shout out to Justin. Because, we like to keep it in the family.
That's how you got to do it.
That's how you got to do it. So, we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'll let either one of you answer this. Just kind of tell the people how you met, how you ended up dating, whatever you like to share about that part.
Yeah, we got
Go for it.
We got opposing views. So, my recollection of how we met was through my brother.
Okay.
We met at college, and his introduction was just very short. Like, this is Trinity. She says that's valid a lot. And I'm like, okay, and that was the end of that. And from there, we kind of just built our own relationship. We spent a lot of time, FaceTiming and talking. She was back and forth to Chicago and everything, so we do our best to hang out. And I don't remember how long. I remember when we started dating, but I don't remember how much time passed between when we met and when we started dating. But that's my version.
And she does say that's right.
She does. It's a
I
very
do.
real thing.
I
She
heard
took
a lot
break
more
from
than
it.
you now, but I
Right.
definitely still sprinkle it in.
Okay. And now your view of how you met.
Yeah, so we definitely met through his older brother, who was a good friend of mine at the time, and on campus at SIUE. The details are sticky there. That's why he mentioned we have opposing views. I say we met on the quad. He says we met in the mug the first time.
So outside or inside?
Right,
Yeah.
outside, inside. So, be that as it may, we met at SIUE and really didn't even, really pay any attention to each other whatsoever. Like, didn't even attempt even friendship at first for probably about a year later. And then we started dating, so yeah.
Okay, so you met at college.
Mhm.
You both are students. How did you end up long distance dating?
So we met, let me see, your first year was 2016, right? 14, okay. So 2014, so I met him sometime in that freshman year, his first year. And then again, I didn't really even talk to him again until when I was about to graduate, 2016. And at that point, we had hung out a few more times. I started going to church that he went to and things like that. And the more time we spent together, like, we built a friendship. And then, again, at the end of the middle of 2016, that's when I moved to Chicago. And, he was very intentional about staying in touch with me. And I was like, oh, okay, this is effort, I think. So, right. So we kind of started, even though we were from the same area, we started talking, I guess, that phase long distance
Okay.
when I was in Chicago. And I stayed there for about 6 months through the end of 2016 and returned at the end of 2016. And January 2017, we were dating. So from there, I was here for like about 6 more months, and then I went away to Spain again, and then I spent about 6 months in Spain, and then I went to Houston again. So we kind of just were in this cycle of with short space of time we were together, and then long sense of time we were apart over the 3 years that we were dating.
Okay. So, I know with long distance dating, you have to be very intentional about carving out time because you have a life where you are, they have a life where they are. So tell me, I'm asking both of you, what was your favorite long distance date?
I don't know. I would definitely say like our movie nights were some of my favorite. I enjoyed some of the other like spiritual things we did, but it wasn't necessarily dating. It was just the activity. But the movie nights, we did it was like Netflix hangouts or something like that. Where we could like kind of screen share and watch the same movie. So we would definitely carve out time to do that.
And that alone, again, it was effort because we had to find the technologies and it was not working. Then we had to go find another app, and then like plan the dates, and then we like even coordinated our food and snacks and things like that. And I would argue that some of the spiritual things we did were even dating.
I think that's
Just because, for one, it was the same. Like today we're watching, such and such action movie, but tomorrow we're watching John Gray. We're still spending time together and enjoying conversation and connecting. Even though the content of that or the context changed slightly.
And it was like major effort because the long distance started like in a whole different country, so it's like different time zones too. So making sure that we could, have the exact same, time and stuff to link up is.
So what was the time difference from Spain?
7 hours.
7 hours.
Oh gosh, so
yeah,
that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so the next question is, how did you cope with lack of physical affection? So while you lived separately, whether that was Chicago or Spain or Houston, how did you cope with that lack of affection? And what creative ways did you use to date intentionally while you were away?
Well, I think for me, I was coming out of a lot of like trauma, like personal trauma and even some sexual trauma. So for me, the physical distance was space for me to heal. And so those are things that we had to really confront in that space, because I knew that even though for me it wasn't something I desired at that point, I still knew that I had to take his, intentions and his needs into consideration. So it kind of forced us to like deal like head on with that in a way that we might not have if we were in person the whole time. So
it for me it was a lot of that like confronting it and just kind of beating her head on because not realizing that she was trying to like compensate for how I might feel in advance. Like I knew she was going through that healing space, so what I did was just did stuff to like keep myself busy. Like we would talk, but during that time, like I was just like, okay, like what can I do? I might like pick up an extra gig or practice longer or do whatever to like not focus on that, to try to make that a burden, for the sake of making that a burden. I want to avoid that, so I would kind of keep myself busy to, not put extra pressure on the situation. So
that's good. And definitely dealing with trauma is always hard, whether you're in person or not. But Trent, you kind of touched on, you think that positively impacted you. So tell me, in what ways do you both think that long distance relationship positively impacted your relationship? Because a lot of people are like, that's long distance, I can't do it. Like that's a lot of people's automatic reaction, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. So how do you guys think that distance actually positively affected you?
Okay. For me, so this was not my first long distance relationship. And I know I've always been dating to marry. Like I haven't had a whole bunch of relationships or anything like that.
Intentional.
Right. And so, what always does it for me is, number one, making sure it's worth it, but two, when it's long distance, like, you have to make sure there's substance. You know what I mean? A lot of people, like, we just talked about physical touch, you know, that's, I'm only in it for this, or I'm only in it for the money, or I like, you know, the adventure, but like, when you're literally halfway across the world, like, you know what I mean? It's gotta be something there, you know, it's gotta be some sort of foundation. So, it was just really important and, you know, made it worth it that we had something there, like whether it was, you know, the connection we built in our friendship, because I mean, even before we started dating, we had a lot of real conversations, whether it be about job or, you know, upbringing or whatever, and that stuff, you know, got stronger the more we talked. But even like, let's talk about like the spiritual things, we would have Bible studies, we would fast, we would watch sermons, we would, you know, have discussions about that. So it was plenty of substance there that continued to make it, you know, valuable. So.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, ditto everything you just said. I think one thing that I would add to that would just be in terms of like how we relate to each other in terms of like conflict resolution and communication. I think being at a distance, it forces you to do those mature things, like take a step back, evaluate how you're feeling, and then come back to the conversation. Because a lot of times you don't have a choice, you know, time constraints and, again, separate lives, they force you to do that. You know, if you know, something happened and I feel like I just need to get it off my chest, I can't have a quick tongue and just go off because it's 2 o'clock in the morning there, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, you know, it forces you to really apply some of those like positive relationship habits and communication strategies that you wouldn't otherwise be forced to apply. So I think that in relationship and even just as a person, you know, as, you know, manager on my job and things like that, it forces you to really work in some of those skills that you need in our relationships.
It built a lot of trust because the reality of the situation is like anything could happen. You know, we not only are we halfway across the world, we in different time zones, so you could be doing whatever while I'm asleep. You know what I mean?
Right.
And vice versa. But you have to, you know, it also built a lot of trust in that aspect too.
So, the big question, because like you said, you were dating to marry. You knew that it wasn't just a whatever fly by the seat of your pants relationship. So, since you knew you were dating to marry, how was the decision made on who would move and who would stay?
Oh, I fought. You're not gonna nod your head like that. Oh, I fought.
So you fought it real
hard. I fought. I'm not proud of it, but I fought. Okay. Yeah. After, again, the furthest distance we had it was Spain, but after I left Spain in 2018, I lived in Houston for a couple of years, and I, you know, when it came time to figuring out what the next steps were, I definitely was like, oh, you come here, and I was sending him, you know, jobs and different churches and positions and things like that. He'd be like, okay, nah, that one don't really speak to me. Nah, God not really say nothing about that. I'll think about it. And it just seemed like he was real nonchalant, you know, which in my heart, I knew he wasn't. I knew he was hearing me, but it's like that's it?
Yeah,
that's all you got?
That's all you have to say.
Okay. All right. Guess I ain't moving. So, yeah, no, I think we knew that we would end back in this area eventually. Yeah. I think if anything, I was fighting for it to happen, not to happen so soon. I liked Houston. But yeah, we can go visit.
That's all you got.
We can go visit. And that's what he politely told me.
That you thought. That's all you gotta say.
No, it's just, I mean, I understood. I was so, I don't want to say burdened, but I was cognizant of the weight of marriage. And especially, I had to just internally keep my foundation, you know, in the world of where you got people that don't care about marriage, you got people that are, you know, hell-bent on not getting married, you have, you know, all these ideologies about what it is. You know, me being rooted in my faith, I had to stay rooted there, and I understood not only the weight of a union, but the weight of, leadership that plays in it, and just the weight of spiritual obedience. And I'm like, bro, like the point that I kept trying to convey was like, this ain't no time to just, rely heavily on your own understanding or what seems cool or what might work like this. You know what I mean? Like, of course, we in 2020 now, we understand the craziness as of right now, but at the time, 2019 wasn't all, fruit and dessert either. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's like, I'm like, so much, not to be a pessimist, but like, so much could go wrong if you make the wrong move. Like, so I'm just like, unless I hear God say it, bro, I can't do it, and nor would I feel okay putting you in that position either. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's a whole different ball game we're about to step into here. And even then, like, I was in God's face, like, bro, throw me a bone. Like, I'm like, I know you hear her talking to me.
Help me.
Like, literally help me. And it's just, I mean, you can hear a pin drop, you can hear an ant roll across the floor. I'm just like, bro. And everybody talking, well, you got to get quiet. I'm like, bro, you weren't there with us. I was in my room for 3 hours. Just
quiet.
Anything? No? Okay.
We'll wait.
Anything else? No? Got it. And I'm talking to pastors, I'm talking to prophets. I'm like, do you hear anything? Somebody prophesying to be cool. Your business is gonna be great. That's not what I need to hear right now.
Thank you, but
God bless you.
That's
however,
not what I came here for.
Can I show you some text messages? Listen, I need look. So, and then it was really the house that really, sealed the deal. It was just like, look, we ain't got a place to live. Like, you got to do something. And then this house came through, and I was like, thank you. All right, we'll stay. Thank you. God bless
you.
That's a real thing. So,
listen, and from a woman who is single, I commend you.
Oh, God
because not everybody has a plan. Some people just like, let's just do it.
Right.
So I commend you for
it was that in there, too. It's just, put effort. Like,
we like Nike. We just go flourish and let the chips fall where they may.
Look, they gonna fall.
Right. So, you guys got married, like you said, about 3 months ago. Yay! It was beautiful. So what was the transition like going from long distance dating to now you're here all the time in my house? Like, how'd that go?
It was an adjustment. I'll put myself out there. I called Joy and was like, Joy, there's a man in my house.
And I'm on the phone like,
is it the repairman? I said, no, because he has keys. And he just like walked in. And Joy was like, so is it your husband? Yeah. But like, he's here all the time.
He lives here, honey. He's here to stay.
Right. So, yes, you were privy to a little bit of that adjustment, but it definitely, it was good. It was good. One of the things that helped us, transition, and even, throughout the time we were long distance, was because we do have similar habits and similar routines and things like that. So it wasn't hard for us to fall into that new normal. Yeah. And if anything, I think it just made us appreciate it more. Yeah. Like, just still in a place where we just really appreciate the time we have together. So, yeah.
You think you want to add to that?
Yeah, I kind of had a different reaction. It teeters because I was actually kind of having that relationship. I was having that conversation with a friend of mine a couple of days ago. I was like, I'm at a place in my life where I can start to kind of appreciate, my father a little bit more, because I'm at a place where I can start living out some of those things that either I saw him do or that he taught me. Yeah. And so I honestly couldn't wait. I was just like, cool, like, we got a house, now I can get married, now we can,
move on here.
And I was just like, cool, married now, my house, great, I have my keys, so I come home and she just, I'd be ready to fight because I'm putting my key in the door and the door just opened. I'm like, who? Like,
She lives here.
Right. And she'd be like, oh, I didn't know. I was like, it's still me. Like, remember we moved this stuff? Like, and so, and sometimes, we had to really get together on like morning schedules because like we did have similar habits, but now it's just like, okay, one bathroom, So no, I can't necessarily. You know what I mean? Like who's gonna have to wake up first? Who's gonna have to do? Getting that together because at first we were like both late to work all the time due to that, and it's just like okay, we got to figure something else out. Trying to molding schedules. Look, so but I think the prep work we did in dating kind of made it a lot smoother than it could have gone for sure.
Also, I think like in the business of the transition, I think we took for granted like also what like being together was going to be like. We had a conversation where we were like, I definitely thought we'd have more time together. Like we talked about like, oh, we're gonna work out together, we're gonna cook together every day, and we're also gonna go grocery shopping together. Oh, do all these things together now. And it's just like, no, you both still have responsibilities. You both still have a life. I'm like, oh, all right. Well, I guess I'll see you later. Right. Good. That part. Good night. So I think it was awesome, but also we had to sober up real quick to what was really
the reality.
Yeah, the reality.
It's lucky didn't stop. Like people usually get married, have a honeymoon. Like I got married on Friday, and if I didn't call off, I would have to go to work on Saturday.
Right.
Like things didn't. I called off for that, but literally, and Mondays, back to normal life. I have a ring now. God bless you. Go pack up the boxes.
You have a wife.
That's what it is.
Right.
The bill is due next week. Thank you.
Right.
That's
all the bills.
Literally.
All the bills.
Yeah.
Woo.
Amron ain't look. If somebody was excited, it was Amron.
Okay.
There's two of y'all in here.
Right.
Say less.
Right.
So the last question: what advice would you give to someone who is potentially seeking a long distance relationship or who is currently in a long distance relationship? We're also in the midst of a pandemic, so I know that plays a part, but what advice would you give from a woman's perspective and a man's perspective?
I would say, because I know a lot of women out here, and I do see some good men reaching out. We're really quick to trash them and, talk about.
And they're not out
Yeah, they're not. And I would say, like I said when we opened up, for me, a lot of it was like taking time, evaluating the situation I was in, and just acknowledging and appreciating the effort. And then allowing that friendship to go from there. I think that you just also can't hold yourself like to all of the ideals because it's not perfect and it's not ideal. But just appeal to that like humanity. Like this is another person that desires a conversation and connection with me. Yeah, exactly. I think if you stay grounded and centered in those things, then a long distance relationship, any long distance relationship can be successful.
I would say watch out for comparison. It's not gonna always be like the movies. It's not gonna be like your boys' relationships. You know what I mean? Guard your heart, because I know a couple times like, I would get jealous. Like, okay, I can't. I'm out with my friends, but no, I can't hold my wife's hand while I drive. I can't. Do that. But also like really be intentional about making the effort. There was a lot, even though we had a long distance relationship, like made numerous trips to Houston. She did the same thing. I would do stuff like, if I was here, I send her flowers to her job. And I do, stuff like to try to make it a little more close, but, something tangible. Like you talk about physical touch, but there's other things like that that makes it tangible as well. So really, put the effort there if it's something real,
I thought one more thing. Okay. I think because you mentioned like, we did a lot of traveling and that kind of like waxed and waned with different like seasons of our lives over 3 years. So what I would ask that is be practical about that. Because I've also seen people out here like, oh my, visit you every weekend and you live in Hungary and they live in Mumbai, no ma'am, you're not getting tickets to Mumbai every weekend. It's not happening. And you make $10 an hour Dollar General. Like it's just like be practical, because the thing is, even though absolutely the hope is to be successful, the effort can make you successful, but holding yourself to impractical ideals is where a lot of the pressure and the discord comes in at. So be practical. Just stay grounded in who that other person is.
And make sure you're ready. Like, really make sure you're ready. I know getting into the relationship, I had a lot of trust issues, and that's usually the number one worry in long distance relationships. Like, oh, what he doing, what she doing, who else and you want to FaceTime all the time just to make sure, it's just like, be ready. You know what I mean? Be ready for what you're going to do. Understand what it is, and just, ride the wave.
Nice. Anything else?
Have fun.
Have fun. Date.
It's fun.
Date.
It should be fun.
Please
fun.
date.
It should be fun.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Murray. Thank you, Mr. Murray.
God bless you.
For those of you who are still tuning in, be sure to check out this entire series, Discourse on Dating. We have a few other special guests that we're featuring. So like I said, be sure to share this with a friend. If you know somebody who's interested in a long distance relationship or who's currently in one, send this to them because they might need some encouragement. So thank you guys for listening, and let's exchange.
See ya.